This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. The United States government says Apple and 5 book publishers illegally fixed prices of ebooks. 3 publishers, Hachette, HarperCollins, and Simon & Schuster, agreed to a settlement announced April 11th with the Justice Department. The agreement says they must repay millions of dollars and stop giving Apple special treatment. Attorney General Eric Holder said the department will continue to take legal action against Apple and 2 additional leading publishers, Macmillan and Penguin. He says Apple and the publishers conspired to increase the prices that consumers pay for ebooks. He said the Justice Department wants to make sure Americans can buy ebooks at a fair price. The department says Apple and the 5 publishers made an illegal deal to set higher prices for electronic books. Because of this, it says, Americans paid millions of dollars more than they should have. The dispute centers on the influence of Amazon.com. The internet store had been selling ebooks for $9.99. But the government says Apple made a deal with the publishers 2 years ago as it prepared to launch the iPad tablet computer. The deal guaranteed Apple 30% of the money earned on each ebook sold. It also created a pricing model that required stores to sell at a price set by the publishers and Apple. The price was several dollars higher than the one offered by Amazon. Acting Assistant Attorney General Sheris Posen said, when companies get together and conspire to enter into agreements that eliminate price competition, it crosses the line. This kind of agreement is illegal and anti-competitive, she said. She added that company officials, including former Apple chief Steve Jobs, knew what they were doing at the time. The Justice Department case involves antitrust laws, which aim to halt business methods that crush competition. 16 states and Puerto Rico are also bringing their own case. Apple and British publishers Macmillan and Penguin have decided to go to court rather than settle with the Justice Department. Apple says the accusation made against it in the department's lawsuit on April 11th is simply not true. It says the launch of the iBookstore in 2010 supported competition and broke what it called Amazon's monopolistic grip on the publishing industry. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. For more business news and other stories for people learning English, go to voaspecialenglish.com.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report in Special English. Many children first learn the value of money by receiving an allowance. The purpose of an allowance is to teach children about money. Children can learn how to manage money, especially at an early age, when financial mistakes are not very costly. The amount of money that parents give to their children to spend as they wish differs from family to family. Timing is another consideration. Some children get a weekly allowance, others get a monthly allowance. Parents should make clear what, if anything, the child is expected to pay for with the money. At first, young children may spend all of their allowance soon after they receive it. If they do this, they will learn the hard way that spending must be done within a budget. Parents are usually advised not to offer more money until the next allowance. The object is to show young people that a budget demands choices between spending and saving. Older children may be responsible enough to save money for larger costs like clothing or electronics. Many people who have written on the subject of allowances say it is not a good idea to pay your child for work around the home. These jobs are a normal part of family life. Paying children to do extra work around the house, however, can be useful. It can even provide an understanding of how a business works. Allowances give children a chance to experience the things they can do with money. They can share it in the form of gifts or giving to a good cause. They can spend it by buying things that they want, or they can save and maybe even invest it. Saving helps children understand that costly goals require sacrifice. You have to cut costs and plan for the future. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report in Special English. 5 nations held the 5th BRICS Summit at the end of March in Durban, South Africa. The 5 BRICS nations are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. For years, these nations have said they do not have a strong voice in world events. All 5 countries have strong economies, but none has been asked to lead the International Monetary Fund or the World Bank. India, Brazil, and South Africa have all campaigned without success for a permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council. Anil Suklal is South Africa's ambassador to the BRICS group. He says the group can overcome historical imbalances by giving each nation power over a proposed development bank. The bank would be collectively owned by all the BRICS countries. Emilio Pera is with Ernst & Young Business Advisory Services. He says a development bank is a good idea for financing public works projects and strengthening cooperation between the BRICS nations. A report from South Africa's Standard Bank says each nation is expected to donate $10 billion for the bank. China's economy alone is bigger than that of the 4 other countries combined. For China, $10 billion is not a lot of money. But for South Africa, it represents almost half of the country's education budget. At the IMF and the World Bank, members donate money based on the size of their economy. Standard Bank's Simon Fremantle says it could be a long time before the bank is launched. He thinks the bank has a long process through which it still has to travel in order to reach the point where it can extend loans. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Prasuti.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report in Special English. Americans are buying more products and services than ever before through the internet. And the popularity of online sales is likely to spread to other countries. Online sales now represent as much as 1/10 of all retail sales in the United States. Experts say online shopping hit records in both November and December. 57% of Americans have bought something electronically. This has led traditional stores to seek new ways to keep their customers loyal. Store owners worry continuing growth in online sales will hurt their business. Cornell University marketing professor Ed McLaughlin says they should be worried because any products that can be sold online will be. Ed McLaughlin says traditional stores can keep their customers by selling goods like clothing, which buyers may want to see and try on before purchasing. He says the stores could also offer things that are difficult to ship. He says some stores can please customers by offering to set up or repair electronic products. Bill Martin is the founder of ShopperTrack. His business helps stores learn about their customers. He told us that traditional stores offer a social experience that some people enjoy. He says there is still a lot of emotion in the buying decision, and it is hard to get that emotional feeling from shopping online. So there is still a place for brick and mortar stores. Bill Martin says traditional stores can provide goods to buyers faster than online businesses, and some retailers use their websites to persuade people to visit their stores. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.
This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. Space Exploration Technologies, or SpaceX, may be a company to watch in the coming years. On Tuesday, May 22nd, SpaceX successfully launched its Falcon 9 rocket from Cape Canaveral in Florida. The privately built and owned Dragon spacecraft was loaded with more than 500 kilograms of supplies for the International Space Station. The Dragon linked up with the space station after a 3-day flight. America's National Aeronautics and Space Administration is moving to private companies for services like bringing supplies to the space station. NASA official Bill Gerstenmaier spoke to reporters after the launch. He said the space agency has already signed a contract with SpaceX for the company's services on 12 flights. The agreement is worth $1.6 billion. Mr. Gerstenmaier said the United States no longer pays Russia to carry out such operations. SpaceX is based in Hawthorne, California. Elon Musk started the company in 2002, but it is not the first company founded by the South African-born businessman. He also started the internet payment service PayPal, which is now owned by online auction store eBay. His other company, Tesla Motors, makes electric cars. Elon Musk has likened modern space travel to where internet technology was in the 1990s. At that time, businesses were just starting to think about how to sell goods and services on the World Wide Web. Today, billions of dollars in goods and services are sold online. But after the launch, Mr. Musk tried to keep his attention on the job at hand. He said the immediate goal for SpaceX is to bring supplies to the space station. After that, he thinks the company will work toward improving its rocket technology. He said a major development would be to make what he calls a full and rapidly reusable rocket. The Dragon spacecraft is designed to be able to carry both astronauts and cargo. SpaceX says it has 40 launches planned over the next few years and contracts worth $4 billion. It says 60% of its upcoming flights are for businesses, not the government. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. You can read, listen, and learn English with more stories about business and other subjects at voaspecialenglish.com.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. A court in Afghanistan recently sentenced former leaders of the country's first private bank to prison. The two men were found guilty of crimes that led to the failure of the Kabul bank in 2010. Some people say the 5-year prison sentences were not enough. The bank failure led to a financial crisis in Afghanistan. A special 3-judge committee of the Afghan Supreme Court decided the case. The court found Kabul Bank's former chairman, Sherhan Farnood, guilty of stealing $278 million. Former Chief Executive Officer Halilullah Ferozi was found guilty of stealing $530 million. The judge ordered the two men to repay the stolen money. The former bank officials have been under house arrest for more than a year. They were among 21 Kabul Bank and government employees who were tried and found guilty. The other defendants were given shorter sentences. All have the right to appeal. The case was considered a test of Afghanistan's new legal system and the government's will to fight corruption. The special court did not charge several other influential people linked to the bank as shareholders or borrowers. These people included a brother of President Hamid Karzai and a brother of the first vice president. The Afghan government rescued the bank and renamed it the new Kabul Bank. Nations that help support Afghanistan, led by the United States, have promised billions of dollars in aid after NATO forces withdraw by the end of 2014. But they are demanding that the government bring corruption under control. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report in Special English. Can you think your way to wealth and success? Napoleon Hill believed that if you think the right thoughts, you can. In 1937, he published the book Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill spent many years researching financial success and observing people who had become rich. Although it was published in the middle of the Great Depression, it was an immediate success. Think and Grow Rich remains one of the most popular nonfiction books ever written. Forbes magazine says it has sold 70 million copies since it first appeared and continues to sell today. Napoleon Hill wrote at least 10 other books about success before his death in 1970. None of Hill's books came close to selling as many copies as Think and Grow Rich. But for today's generation, Think and Grow Rich is now available in a different form. Smarter Comics has released an illustrated version of the book. Franco Arda is the company's founder and publisher. He used to work as an investment banker. He started the company 3 years ago with his own money. He wanted to create picture books that increase understanding. His versions provide much of the information that is in full-length books, but in an easy-to-understand picture or comic form. Franco Arda says readers will understand and remember more about gaining success if they read the comic book version of Think and Grow Rich. He says pictures make the book easier to remember. He says the book taught him to change the way he thinks about money and success. Smarter Comics says the book tells how wealth is a lifelong pursuit achieved by believing in the value of personal ideas. It says anyone can achieve their dreams by refusing to be stopped by temporary problems. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. The Ethiopian government and the United Nations Development Program, or UNDP, have launched a 3-year program. They plan to train more than 200,000 entrepreneurs. Government and UNDP officials say the businesses set up by these men and women could create more than 1 million jobs in Ethiopia. The country's Minister of Urban Development and Construction, Mikuria Haile, says Ethiopians need to change their way of thinking. He says that instead of looking for jobs, people need to become social and economic entrepreneurs who create jobs. The Ethiopian government and the UNDP are interested in people wanting to set up small and medium-sized companies. The development program is expected to cost $26 million. So far, the UNDP has supplied $6 million. The program is based on 4 main ideas: institutional development, entrepreneurship training, business development services, and partnerships. Eugene Owusu works in Ethiopia for the UNDP. He says more needs to be done to reduce bureaucratic rules and increase access to credit in the country. Ethiopia has one of the world's fastest growing economies. but it is 174th on the UNDP's Human Development Index. Human development has improved in Ethiopia during the past 20 years, but almost 1/3 of the people live in poverty. And the need for jobs and economic growth is urgent. In Africa, Ethiopia's population is second only to Nigeria. And Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn says a majority of the country is under the age of 25. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. The United Nations is warning that the world is not prepared to deal with the fast growth of cities. The World Economic and Social Survey 2013 calls for new ways to meet the needs of city populations. More than 6.5 billion people are expected to be living in cities by 2050. Most new city dwellers will be in developing countries. The United Nations says the effect on limited resources in many countries will be huge. The World Economic and Social Survey notes the increasing demands for energy, water, sanitation, public services, education, and healthcare. The world population is expected to rise to more than 9 billion by 2050. 2/3 of all people are expected to live in cities. The United Nations says about 80% of this growing urban population will be found in Africa and Asia. The report says sustainable development of urban areas requires coordination and investments to deal with important issues. These include land use, food security, job creation, and transportation. William Vandergeest is with the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. He says cities need to work closely with rural communities so that food supplies can be secured and the environment can be protected. The report also examines the problem of food insecurity, which affects hundreds of millions of people around the world. 1 in 8 people is still chronically undernourished. The Assistant Secretary General for Economic Development, Shamshad Akhtar, says world food production will have to increase by 70%. That increase will be needed to feed the additional 2.3 billion people expected on the planet by the middle of the century. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. A look at some industries in the United States shows that the economic recovery is uneven and growth seems to be slowing down. We spoke with experts in the transportation industry, which is easily affected by economic changes. Economists say trucks carry nearly 70% of the freight or goods transported in the United States. The American Trucking Association represents the interests of the trucking industry. It says freight is a good measure of the economy. This is because businesses have to move unprocessed materials, carry parts to factories, and transport imports and exports. Bob Costello is the chief economist for the group. He says the trucking industry is a leading economic indicator. That means that it helps signal what will happen in the economy. He says it is a good sign if the amount of goods carried by trucks increases, and the amount of freight carried by trucks is going up slowly. The American Trucking Association says total freight tonnage increased in June, but remained unchanged in July. That is good news to Bob Costello. He says it tells him that the economy is not falling into another recession. Other information about economic growth comes from air freight, or goods transported by air. Recent reports show demand for air freight fell more than 3% around the world during July. Perry Flint is with the International Air Transport Association. That group represents about 240 airline companies worldwide. It gathers information about air passenger travel and air freight. It says international air freight decreased in July from the same period the year before. But other signs show increases. The same report shows that passenger traffic increased over 3% from last year. That may be why a top official of Cambria Suites Hotels says all travel, not just business travel, is strong. Michael Murphy says, "We are seeing the highest demand in the history of the hotel industry right now." Conflicting economic signs have made it difficult for economists to predict future growth. For example, government experts first said the American economy expanded at a yearly rate of 1.5% from April to June. But they amended that value as new information became available and showed growth was higher, more likely at a rate of 1.7%. Changes like that have made it harder for many people to see the road ahead. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.